Good day, my relatives. This is Orest Swazdeski from the Vision and Voices Collective. You can find me at www.visionandvoices.ca, together in collaboration with my partner Sherry Cameron from The Pathway to More, where she can be found at www.thepathwaytomore.com. I'm pleased to say that we have followed our vision and have created this evolutionary emergence virtual experience where we've called together 2,500 plus people from across the planet to join us online to see what the emerging future wants to share with us. Please welcome our next speaker.
Oh, you're just on mute there, Orest.
There we go. Thank you for that. Yeah, I love watching these Facebook or Instagram walk and talks that you do there online. Always dropping some good nuggets there for people. Okay, so the talk is transforming dreams into clear visions with health and vitality. Drawing from over 15 years in effective clinical practice fusing traditional Chinese medicine, quantum physics, and biological medicine, Dr. Preston has worked together with thousands of patients to help heal the root cause of their symptoms. He's become known for unconventional ideas on health and medicine and resolving complex chronic illnesses, mystery syndromes, and more. Employing his expertise in pattern recognition of behaviors, thoughts, and physical body expression, Dr. Preston works with patients to uncover the hidden or unseen elements of life that are holding them back. This data can be used to guide individuals toward their fullest and most authentic expression with clarity, focus, and vitality. Thank you for being here. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, and also thank you for following your vision and your own dreams to put this summit together, to put this experience together. And, I thought it was beautiful, you and Sherry speaking this morning of inspired people really make an impact on the planet. And that's part of what I want to talk about this morning is, we talk about dreams and bringing them into reality. Your health, your vitality are really, really tied into that because you need enough energy and a strong foundation to be able to bring things forward in a really clear way, in a healthy way. And part of that is by, showing up and doing your work. And you were talking about, doing like vision quests or fasting or some of the ceremonies and things. That is doing the work. And so in my life, what I've been really focused on for a number of years now is trying to live a more ceremonial life. And what I mean by that for me is just living with more intention, being more clear with what I'm doing each day, how my energy is, taking one step at a time, slowing down. And so we're going to unpack this stuff a little bit. And I've been so blessed in many ways to have turned lots of dreams into reality. And years ago, maybe just the little nuggets or little seedlings of dreams that now have happened. And when I kind of retrace my steps, these are part of the layers that I want to share this morning. So we'll be doing some interaction. I've got some time for Q&A at the end because I like engaging with the people that are here. So welcome to everybody that's here with us right now. And yeah, there's a few things that I want to start with. And for those that don't know me, I'm a Chinese medicine doctor by trade and do events and retreats and all kinds of other things. And that's been part of my work and passion for many years now. And one of the things that I recall, especially sitting in Chinese medicine school many years ago now, is the view of the body as a garden. And, compared to maybe Western culture view as a machine. And when I started really learning more about Chinese medicine and the body as a garden, it made a lot of sense. And it's such a beautiful analogy that I still feel all the time. And what I'm bringing forward today is what I'd like to call the dream garden. And within that dream garden, and some of you may have some visions for that already, even as I speak to it, is just, taking a nice deep breath and pausing. And this is part of the practice of slowing down at times to be able to listen to what's around us. And when we come into that dream garden, I find a lot of people, and this was me in the past as well, maybe hadn't been to the dream garden in a while, your own garden, and what was happening in there. And maybe there's a bunch of weeds that have cropped up over the years and some cleanup work that needs to be done. And this is what I've kind of come to understand in my own life. And, some of the things like for dreams to come into reality, you need to make space for them. And sometimes that involves clearing out the old, weeding the garden, so to speak, and then you can plant the new. And in my practice, I'd treated many, many different cases, a lot of autoimmune conditions, mystery syndromes, challenging cases, stubborn cases, a lot of undiagnosed conditions. And fertility was one of those as well. And I love treating fertility because there's excitement, sometimes there's challenge, you learn a lot, and the outcome is usually pretty clear, and it's creating new life, which is such a sacred journey to be a part of. And what we used to say in Chinese medicine is if you want to plant a seed, you've got to nourish the soil first. And so very true of the body, but also true of dreams. So if we're talking about the dream garden, we want to look at how is the quality of the soil? Are there weeds overgrowing everywhere? Is it getting sunlight? Has it been stuck in the shade, or has it not been watered in ages? And looking at the quality of the soil in there. And, in your mind's eye, for some of you, I think a lot of people on this call are very visual and tuned in and gifted, and, all the presenters so far as well, that you probably have a sense of what's happening in there, even if you haven't been there for a little while. And so when we want to plant a seedling or grow new flowers, grow dreams, whatever it might be, like there's the creation of new life. And I kind of see dreams that way. It's like, it's bringing new life force into the physical. It's sharing creatively who we are. It's sharing our goals, maybe our dreams, our gifts that all sort of coincide together, and that we give ourselves, plenty of permission to use our imaginations fully. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years and just treating a lot of patients and they trying to come into a greater state of health, there's often a lot of baggage that we might be carrying as people. And I've done a lot of work on some of my baggage and going to continue to. And what I've noticed over the years is it clears space for something new to emerge all the time. It allows me more flexibility of my physical health, but also of my mental health. And so one of the key concepts I want to dive into here is the emotions in Chinese medicine as it relates to the 5 yin organs. And just as we, traverse that terrain a little bit more, I'd invite another round of a nice deep breath and just finding yourself land in this space a little bit more. And when you're finding yourself coming into your body, this is actually a big key for manifesting dreams. You need to be present as much as you can. And sometimes we can get distracted through a million different things, but if we can come into our own bodies, into our physical vessel here that we're gifted to traverse this planet with, that is where things get planted in at a deeper level. And so one of the things that I've found is if we have suppressed emotions in the body, that can create blockages of qi. Some people have heard that word before. Qi, from a Chinese medicine point of view, is translated mostly into like vital force or life force energy that flows through your whole system. And we have qi that flow through all the major organs, all the meridians in the body. And the main emotions that Chinese medicine speaks of, they're not bad, they're not wrong. It's not that we need to get rid of them, but we do want to integrate them into our systems. And so what we find, if there's a lot of suppression of symptoms, and especially, especially of emotions, that can lead to blockages of qi. And if they're unresolved, it leads to more significant issues. And sometimes that's where people start having physical symptoms. And what I've seen over the years is that the physical body is usually the last thing to manifest a symptom. And the other thing is about the suppressed emotions, it doesn't just impact your body, it impacts the worlds and the energy and your field of energy around you. And so that often translates into, seen and unseen challenges, difficulties. Maybe you just find that you're trying to create in the world and it's not really working, or your relationships are struggling, or you can't really get traction in the way that you would think, or the amount of energy and effort you feel like you're putting out, and maybe those things aren't happening yet. So it's good to just take a pause, maybe step back and check on your inner inventory here. And so when I talk about the 5 yin organs of Chinese medicine, basically the spleen, the liver, the kidneys, the lungs, and the heart. And it's not that the other organs aren't important, but for this purpose, we're going to focus on the yin organs because those are the ones that are connected most to the emotions. So for those of you note takers, you could look at the liver, and the emotion of the liver in Chinese medicine is anger. And then we have the spleen. And it's not an emotion necessarily, but the translated saying would be excessive contemplation, and easily translated to overthinking, busy minds. I think that this is really, really rampant in our system right now, and our societies and the way that it is. There's just so many things to think about, so many aspects of stimulus, that there's a lot of mental processing going on. And then we come to the kidneys, and the kidneys are more related to fear. And this is a big one too, especially if we look at things going on the planet in general and our own inner environments. At times, fear can be leading the way, and we may not even really be aware of that. And then we have the lungs. The lungs are more related to grief and sadness. And so each of the ones I've mentioned so far, we have basically spleen is overthinking, just for recap. Liver is more anger, kidneys is more fear, lungs is more grief and sadness. And then we talk about the heart, and I have a little bit different concept around the heart from a Chinese medicine point of view, but one of those aspects was that joy is actually housed in the heart. And I remember thinking in school, like, what's wrong with that? But in some cases, it's overjoy. And it's not the best translation necessarily, but maybe an example is you meet somebody and they are constantly laughing all the time, but it's not grounded. It's actually maybe a little bit manic, or they're out of their body, and they have sort of an uncharacteristic response to almost everything around them, and sort of in that bypass. Some people would say worry can be housed in the heart a little bit, but what I've seen over the years of doing this work is that the heart can house all of the emotions and sort of presides over the kingdom of emotions, if you think of it that way. And each of these emotions, like I said, they're not bad, but if they become blocked or suppressed in some way, then that's where they start showing up and creating more issues. So maybe a quick example is the liver. Say your liver starts to get a little bit stuck through maybe not eating that well, maybe drinking too much, maybe not sleeping as much as you should be, or generally, your level of wellness. And the liver is a major, major filter in the body physiologically, and in Chinese medicine, its role is to process a lot and to help smooth flow of qi flow move through your entire body. So when that stops through a variety of different mechanisms, you're going to start feeling more frustrated more easily. You're going to feel angry more easily. Maybe you don't have as much patience with the people around you, or even with yourself. And that starts doubling back in the liver energy itself. And you know what? That will actually create more blockage there. It'll create more congestion. And the more congested that filter is, the less you're going to be able to detox the toxins that need to get out of the body, the more inflamed your system can get. And you know what? Then the loop happens, the more anger results. And pretty soon you get in this snowball direction of getting really stuck. And that starts to back up energy in your entire life and for all the emotions of your whole system. So that's just one example. And so that is why these organ systems are really important, but the emotions around them. So when you think about the emotions in general, the amount of suppression that happens, it takes away energy. When things are so stuck in the body, it uses immense amount of energy and qi and life force that you may not even really be aware of. And so being aware of where your energy is going is a really big key if we're taking an internal inventory or an internal kind of resource inventory of what's happening in there. And if we look at society in general, the amount of unprocessed material that so many people are carrying, it's a lot, it's staggering. And if I hadn't been in the clinic for the last, 15, 16 years now, working with thousands of patients, I wouldn't have known this for myself either. And just becoming aware that some of these elements for, anybody listening right now, doing a little bit of inventory for yourself, like when I mentioned each one of those, I'd like you to just pay attention to which one maybe has a little bit more energy around it for you, or which one has a little bit more of a pull, or which one maybe are you in resistance to, or it might even be triggering you a little bit right now when I even, name it, when I say it. Anger, grief, sadness, busy brain, overthinking, fear, maybe all of the above. And that's okay if it feels a little bit overwhelming, because we can move this energy. And I think one of the things to keep in mind is we just need to be slowing down enough to feel what's there. And I do feel in our daily lives and in the world right now, and this happens for me quite a bit as well, that we'll have a lot of distraction so that we don't need to feel the emotion, so that we don't need to feel what's there. And so if we're, shifting into what to do about it, finding some solutions for the suppression. One of my teachers years ago just told me, like, you have to allow it. And that might be a really simple concept that I'm sharing here. And I do think simplicity is key when we're moving through these deep layers of the body, and especially talking about manifesting dreams. But we often don't allow what's really there to be felt. And I know in some cases it's because the immense layers of things that we've been through, it can feel like too much to dive into. And so we'll just leave it and we'll bypass it many, many times. And, a session I was in for myself years ago too, with a beautiful counselor and therapist I've known for years, we got into this beautiful discussion around grief. And she said, Kevin, what are you going to do with the grief that you feel? You know all this stuff. And so what are you going to do? And really the guidance that was coming through is, I need to make time and space for it. Almost like you'd make time and space for visiting a friend, or having a meeting, or, going out for dinner or something like that, having dinner parties. What if we made time and space very intentionally for our emotions? And emotions may come up all the time, unexpectedly, when you don't feel like they're welcome. Maybe you're working, or maybe you're a speaker and you're presenting. Maybe something starts welling up and you don't have time for it. And if that happens, maybe make a note, write it down in your journal, or make a note somewhere on your phone and technology, to revisit that energy or to revisit that emotion. And so the clarity I had in this example these years ago is, I need to make time and space for the grief. And I could see that in my life I wasn't. And so after I got out of that session, I went out into nature. And this is the other thing that has helped me tremendously with manifesting, dreams and bringing them into the world of form, bringing them into matter, is to make time and invite the suppressed emotion forward that I was most in resistance to, or struggling with. And so later that day, I went down to the lake. Here we've got beautiful lakes in BC, in the Okanagan. And I just went for a walk along the rocks and walked until I felt like I found my spot to sit down. And I sat on a log looking at the water, and I said, okay, grief, I'm here. I'm available. I'm ready for a visit. And it took maybe 10 to 15 minutes of just watching the water. There was gentle waves moving that day, and nature always helps me connect in with myself. But that's what started happening, is I could feel it slowly bubbling up in my system. And eventually it got all the way up to the top of my body, to my eyes, and tears started to flow. And I didn't feel like I needed to know all the reasons the grief was there. Some of those things became really obvious to me, but I just allowed it. I allowed it forward. I gave it time. I gave it space. And if it was like a good friend of mine and they had things to share, or they were going through something, I would treat them the same, you know? I would listen and I would allow them to share everything that they needed to share. So I was allowing grief to share what it needed to express. And I sat there for probably 3 hours and the tears just kept rolling and it would come in different waves and it would subside and then there'd be another wave. And that was kind of a breakthrough day for me, I would say, to be able to slow down and feel something that I probably had been avoiding or not allowing myself to feel, that I'd been keeping myself so busy. And so after that, I felt completely enlivened, activated in a beautiful way. I felt inspired, I felt motivated, and I realized how much energy that had been blocking in my system because I refused to feel it. I refused to go into it, and probably because I was scared of it. I thought maybe if I allow it, I'll get pulled into it in a way where maybe I can't get myself out of it. You know, I'm not going to be able to go to work the next day, or any number of things of the to-do list of life. But I feel like we're moving into a time and space on the planet here, and this is why I'm grateful to be able to share these things, is we can't avoid this anymore. As a society, the amount of, like I've shared, the unprocessed collective suppressed emotion is really high. And that, I think, is what leads to conflicts of all kinds, because we think it's the other people. It's easy to blame systems. It's easy to blame government. It's easy to blame, your lover, your spouse, your friends, your coworkers. But really, if we're taking self-responsibility, and this is part of what I think we're moving into, this is where we're evolving into, this is what's emerging here, and being inspired to actually go into the feelings. And what I noticed is the more I allowed myself to do that, with anger, going into the forest and literally, smashing sticks around and moving my body physically, moving my breath with the lungs of the forest and the trees and transforming all that energy through my body, it would free up so much space that then very quickly, literally later that day or the next day or maybe the next week after, new opportunities would show up. New energy would show up inside me. New inspiration or ideas that I hadn't even really thought of before would come flooding forward because I cleared out enough room for it. So this was the way that I began weeding my own garden, for many years, and places that I had neglected. We all have that place maybe in the back of the garden that's kind of overgrown. You don't even really know what's planted back there anymore. And maybe you've just been tossing the rubbish or the leaves in the back corner thinking, I'll deal with that later. But now it's spilling over into the garden, and maybe that pile's big enough, it's actually casting shade on the things that you're trying to grow that need sunlight. And so collectively, and this is where having a beautiful team of practitioners, joining events like this, hearing from other leaders and guides, you can start to unpack that pile a little bit and start to do some proper gardening, because it's not that maybe you're doing something wrong. Maybe you prepared a little spot in your garden for the seed to be planted, and you've planted it, you've been watering that area, you've been fertilizing it and giving it what it needs for nutrition. But that other big pile in the back corner is getting so high that it is blocking out the sun. And so sometimes we don't want to look into these places because we're afraid of what we're going to feel, or we're going to be afraid of what we find there. So it does take courage. I'm not going to lie about that. It's not always easy work to do. It takes courage to move through these places, but don't go alone. Tell a friend, take a friend with you, invite friends into the garden, say, hey, you know what? I'm overwhelmed by this. Some things are too big to carry by ourselves. One of my dear friends, Courtney, her and I led a lot of retreats together called Collective Hearts. And that's something that would come up in conversation that she would say is, community is really important. Some things are too big for one person to hold. And I've experienced that in my life too, where I got in, freeze or felt stuck, that I couldn't mobilize my energy in the directions I wanted to because I was overwhelmed. And so this is where you need to ask for support, ask for help, get a team together of practitioners. And so other solutions that I would say to help you with this, acupuncture is beautiful, Chinese medicine, not just, I'm not even speaking about me here, wherever you live, wherever you are, check out a Chinese medicine practitioner. Acupuncture is beautiful for helping move stuck energy around the body. Maybe you want to see a somatic therapist. Maybe you need to share some things. Maybe you need to get in touch with your body a little bit more. Maybe you need hands-on, really good body work. And there's, huge amount of modalities that are available. These are things that I'm, deeply connected with. Maybe you need a body talk session. And what I'm saying is there's many ways to work with this energy that could be stuck or suppressed in your body. And one of the beautiful things of working with somebody outside of you, sometimes people can ask us questions and reflect to us the places and the spaces that we can't see ourselves. And, this example coming to mind is, when you're doing renovations or something and you're almost done in your house and maybe you haven't finished the trim, but you kind of leave it and then you start procrastinating. Pretty soon you've been living in that house for a year without it being finished, but you got used to it and now you don't even really see it. And maybe somebody comes over and says, hey, you're going to finish that trim? You're going to finish that finishing work on this reno and then you'll be done? And gosh, he thought, I didn't even see that. I didn't even notice it anymore. So this can be the way it is with emotions, that you could be walking around with a lot of suppressed anger and you don't even know because it's become your baseline. It's become your set point. So this is what I'm inviting, is to slow down, to take inventory and see what wants to emerge on the top of the pile. See what wants to visit you. But you know what? If you're going to invite an emotion over like a friend, you need to make time and space for them. If your friends are knocking at your door saying, hey, we want to visit you, and you open the door for 5 seconds and say, sorry, I'm too busy. Sorry, I'm too busy. You're not going to cultivate a good relationship with them. And in this way, you're not going to cultivate a good relationship with your emotions. And there is massive amounts of untapped potential just in these areas alone. Sometimes I think, manifestation gets too complicated and there's courses and seminars and books and there's so many things available to learn how to manifest, when maybe as a society, we may not need that information in the same way, or you can take it in. I've read all those books and things. Believe me, I love pulling this information in. But in some ways, I was reading all those massive amount of books and courses and everything else to distract myself from feeling the very emotions that would unlock all that potential. So when I started going into that realm internally with intention and making time and space for the different stuck emotions, they would visit me. And I would visit with them as long as what was needed in each of those circumstances to help that energy move properly. And it kept freeing up my energy and vitality more and more and more. And I can say this genuinely now, I feel stronger and healthier now than I did even 10 years ago. And it's not that I felt unwell 10 years ago, but I didn't even know how much capacity and energy I could move through my body that I could then fuel into being of service, into my dreams, into turning things into reality. But I needed to make space for it. So that's my request to everybody here. Take the time now, because if you don't, this energy will find a way to get your attention one way or the other. And what it seems like in our society, and I could say this with a lot of confidence after treating thousands of people, thousands and thousands of visits, the body doesn't lie. The body can't lie. So anything that's going on in your body, health or not health, lack of vitality versus a lot of vitality, it is telling you something. And sometimes the answer is more simple than what we think it is. And we'll look for a lot of different complexity, for answers or answers outside ourselves. But whatever's, I'm seeing some of the comments here, it's like whatever's undigested in your system, that's where the energy leaks are. And so when we look for the energy leaks and you start giving them time and space, in this case, emotions, huge shifts can start to occur. The other pieces I'd like to share is basically, around the body, even just things that maybe are simple for me now, but I still want to name them. Clean water, clean food, taking less toxins into the body. And toxins are not just physical, and maybe some of the physical things, it's like skin products that have a lot of chemicals or preservatives in them. That's a big deal. Shampoos, soaps, all those things that may get overlooked that have a lot more attention now. There's more understanding now. Plastics. Are you buying bottled water all the time in plastic? Food wrapped in plastic? Are you using plastic wrap all the time? What about your clothing? Clothing is a big, excuse me, clothing is a big one that is and has been overlooked for a long time. A lot of petrochemicals, a lot of plastics in there, maybe orienting more to things like linen or organic cotton, these types of fabrics, more natural fibers, wool. Just thinking about that. And even EMFs. Do you have your Wi-Fi on all the time? Is it in your bedroom? Do you have your phone on all the time? Is it close to you? Technology is amazing in lots of ways, but we need to cultivate a mindful relationship with it because those are the invisible toxins. And you want to have some time, which is, again, going back into the forest, going back into nature to connect with yourself. And, doing things like I said earlier, acupuncture, massage, body talk, somatic therapy. There's so many different things you can do. When's the last time you had bare feet on the ground? To ground the voltage and energy in your system to help regulate chi flow. It actually does work. When's the last time you sat with a big elder tree? The big grandmother, grandfather trees, as I like to say, because their roots go so deeply into the earth that it can help transform the electrons in your body. It can run the voltage in a more clear way, in a more harmonious way, which is chi. You want that life force available. So connecting with things that have a lot of life force, like a giant tree, that can shift what's going on in your body. And maybe some other things that you're not always aware of is, what are you taking in from a mental emotional point of view? What kind of toxins might you be taking in? Are you watching the news all the time? Are you, watching movies and things that maybe don't seem to have a high frequency and they're not adding to your life force? They might actually be taking away from it. But some of these things we don't even really pay attention to because it's become commonplace. So I'm just requesting for all of us to become a little bit more mindful. Some of you know a lot of this material, but for some of you, maybe you've overlooked it. Even in your home, do you have a good water filter? Are you drinking tap water? And I'm not trying to knock municipal systems here, but I have learned a lot about toxicity in the body. Put a shower filter on so you're not showering in chlorinated water in the same way. All the little things add up in beautiful ways, and it's available. And some of the stuff is easy to do. Do some breath work, get into prayer and meditation. And like I said in the beginning, living a more ceremonial life for me is really kind of speaking to everything I've shared, is way more time in nature. We've kind of become disconnected from nature. A lot of us have. I think a lot of us on this call probably have a good connection with nature. But how about even more? And mindfully walking through the forest and, starting to set down the things that you've picked up or, energy that you've picked up that maybe doesn't support you in the way that it could anymore. And where can you simplify? And I get questions on this all the time. How do I work on my health and vitality when I've got all of these responsibilities? And it comes down to choice too. It comes down to, where can you simplify your life so that you actually have the time to slow down and listen? Because when we're talking about dreams, the deep dreams inside, the dreams of the heart is speaking to us all the time. But I've often found in my own life in the past, I wasn't always listening. And then that's usually when maybe some challenges or difficulties start to arise because your own inner guidance is trying to get your attention to point you back on the right track. And so one of my regular practices that I'd like to share here as we, transition into, Q&A, and happy to share more, answer what I can, is in the morning, one of my mantras, and, as I connect in my own way to source and creator, is I say, please show me where I need to be, when I need to be there, and who I need to be there with. And then I can kind of put that out in front of me for the day. And it puts me in a more mindful state of listening and being in receivership and listening to my heart's guidance of what direction should we go today? What wants to be created today? And then I get to tap into the deeper aspect of dreams that are within that maybe have been there for a little while that I haven't given time and space to. And so when we look back into the analogy of the garden, now that we've talked about it, we've illuminated some place, maybe some sunlight's now getting on your dream garden that hasn't been there for a little while. What dreams are waiting to be planted in that garden of yours that can have a beautiful and bright future? And making sure that they're dreams that are authentically coming through you. You know, sometimes we're living other people's dreams. You know, sometimes we're running programming, sometimes we're taking cues from way too many things around us, and it's actually taken away from or distracted us from what is actually true inside of each of us. We've all been beautifully designed. We all have our unique soul blueprint. And when we slow down, take a breath, get into nature, we start to feel that deeper guidance and our destiny starts to emerge. And there's this saying in Chinese medicine called nourishing your destiny. And remembering that we are here on this planet too, to nourish our destiny. And when you meet other people that are on their pathway and they're watering that dream garden, you can tell, you can feel it. It's an energy. And spending time and community and connecting in places like this is a really beautiful way to nourish that garden.
Absolutely. I just wanted to ask you, Dr. Kevin, here we have about 5 minutes maybe for questions, then we'll talk about your gifts. But people are asking in the chat if you could repeat your morning mantra.
Yeah, maybe I'll just type it in and then I'll repeat it. Show me where I need to be and when I need to be there. I'm typing it in and then I'll put it in here. Yeah, show me where I need to be, when I need to be there, and who I need to be with. So it's in the chat box. And I would invite all of you to just, modify that or use that in your own way, or, make it your own. And if that resonates, please do it, take it in. And what I have found in my life is I keep getting shown where to be and who to connect with. And it's fascinating because people often then reach out to me and I get to meet that vision kind of halfway of taking inspired action, but also being in that dance of receptivity with the field of energy around me.
Beautiful. Just to touch in on, there was a lot here, obviously, that you shared, but your friend who said, that when you were talking to her, that community is important because sometimes things are too big to hold on our own.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting because, even when you look at, a family member passes or, a loved one passes, the calls go out to the immediate family and then the extended family and then the friends and then the community and so everybody's like encircling the people who've experienced the loss, simply I believe because they can't hold it all themselves. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's all this pouring of love and I'll bring food and flowers and people asking how they can help and support, and it's all right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, if you think of a garden, we'll keep going on this analogy. You want variety in the garden. You want different plants, different flowers, different produce, because that is actually what cultivates a really healthy biodiversity. That's what cultivates a healthy biome of that ecosystem. And so you want a variety of friends, you want a variety of, backgrounds and histories and expertise, and that cross-pollination is so powerful to bring dreams forward and, to share with your friends what your dreams are.
Hmm.
And we don't always get support for the dreams that we have, but the people that kind of see that vision can help you hold it, and then they can help amplify it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a beautiful way of looking at it. Even in terms of like, you're talking about the manifestation material that we, pull into ourselves and yet you're talking about making space for, our friends, the emotions so that we can create space. And that's probably maybe more in alignment with if we're working on visions and manifestations and dreams to cultivate, to make the space for these things to come in, and then start to implement some of the knowledge that we're drawing into ourselves.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, and I'd certainly invite in, I mean, this has been said in so many different communities that the people we hang around with or spend time with shapes who we become. And, for some time in the past, the dreams that I would share or these big ideas I would have, they weren't always met with support. Sometimes there'd be the doubt or the resistance of, no, you don't want to do that. That's not really who you are, or you're not good at that, or are you going to fail? Like, what if it doesn't work? And
Hmm.
and I kind of take it with a grain of salt these days too. And I understand, it's often coming from a loving place, but I also noticed it was often triggering or coming from fear or projection of where they were at, of things maybe they wanted to cultivate, or that they weren't going after their dreams, or they were afraid to kind of take a leap, or, take the risk to do something that was a bit scary, because sometimes taking a big leap in a direction of your dream, it's not always easier. It can be a little bit nerve-wracking,
Hmm.
but that's also where we grow. That's where the edge is. And then I've also had really beautiful friends that are like, Kevin, I love that. How can I support you in this mission? Like, what do you need from me? And I do that for those close to me as well. I want to see their dreams flourish. Even if I don't understand it, I might ask questions. Or even if I'm like, oh, are you sure you want to do that? But I'm catching myself and I'm listening. Is
Hmm.
this my fear or insecurity? Is something getting triggered in me that is having me reflect something of resistance to them? And often it is my own stuff. But if I'm aware of it, I can kind of move past that and then, mobilize in a direction that's going to be really supportive of bringing dreams into the planet, and being of service.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been asked many times in the past from people when I was sharing about what I was doing or what I proposed to be doing. The question arose, what color is the sky in your world, man? So yeah, that's beautiful, just in terms of being able to recognize, like, this is my projection in there, and then you can address it, and then show up and support them in the way that you probably normally would, right?
Yeah, let's help water each other's gardens. If you just think about it, everybody has a dream garden, but maybe it's secret. Maybe they haven't told anybody about it. So ask your friends, what's deeply inspiring to you right now? What is a dream that's, something you've always wanted to do that maybe you've never done? Or what is it you're trying to get off the ground here and move into a place of support rather than sort of extracting or kind of pressuring either yourself or others into a direction that may not be supportive.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, just one, I want to make one more comment before we go and discuss your gifts. But I recently came across a meme that I think it fits to what you were speaking about the garden, our emotions. It made me laugh so hard, right? It was like, I might mess around today and feel some feelings instead of projecting them onto others. I don't know.
So my goodness, so true. I think you just named, the base level kind of conflict in all relationships is that we're not necessarily feeling or owning what's inside here. And it's so much easier to, kind of project it onto others. But yeah, when we can, have a lighthearted way of looking at ourselves, know that there's some stuff there to address probably, then yeah, it can all start to move a little easier.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you so much for your talk. Lots of poignant moments and things that you've shared, and we've got some great comments in the chat. So you have a couple of gifts here.
Hmm.
Uh, if you could speak to those.
Yeah, no problem. So I did a process called Word of the Year, and I do it every year. And it's basically like a guided meditation, a guided process. And it was on Zoom. We record it, and we've made it free. And it's easy to connect into. I think you guys probably have the links and things, and you can just pop your email in there, and then you can do the process. For many people that do a word of the year, to me it's like having a north star, a little bit of guiding light on what direction it was, what is my focus this year. And so I lead a process. I shared about the year, this year that we're in from Chinese astrology is the year of the snake. And so there's a lot of shedding there's a lot of shedding of old skins, and there's medicine in the snake. A lot of symbology medically. A snake is usually in that symbology for these reasons. And, part of what I talk about in that process is how a bit of poison, like snake venom, is actually used to make anti-venom. So a little bit of the poison is actually the antidotes. And this is kind of what I'm talking about, of like the emotions or some of the biggest woundings we have can actually turn out to be the greatest gifting and the greatest levels of service to humanity. So we are in a year where that's really available. And so the Word of the Year process is free. If you already have a Word of the Year, you might find that it gets amplified through this process, or it gets illuminated and gets activated in an even greater capacity, that you might see things or feel things or understand it at an even higher capacity. And because we're coming in, and this is beautiful timing for this event, Orest, the Lunar New Year and planetary alignments coming up tomorrow, that this is a powerful time to dive into a process like that. And if you don't have a Word of the Year, I'd encourage you to do that. And then we also have 15% off code that will be available to all the people in this group and people watching for the New Human event that we're going to be running in October 3rd to 5th, 2025. We've been blessed with amazing speakers, and we had a big one in October 2024 here, and Dr. Zach Bush came to speak, Charles Eisenstein, other really great humans and friends of mine. And I think we moved the marker in frequency and capacity for that. A lot of healing happened and connection. So those are a couple of things, and I can speak to the rest, and I'll let you keep going.
Amazing. Just one last thing. I really thank you for your generosity in this event. Kevin put forward a ticket for his New Human event out in the Okanagan this coming October 3rd to the 5th. We're going to do a draw for that tomorrow at around 3:30, where he's offered up a VIP ticket to the New Human event, Interstellar, and it's the VIP ticket is the big one, so it's a $799 offering that he's generously provided for us. So again, thank you so much for that, Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks so much. I'm excited to keep doing events and following the dreams in my own heart, and I'm really grateful for you following your dream to create this space for people, to create a container for healing and transformation and creating more evolution on the planet. So I feel like we have a lot of aligned gifts here, and we just wanted to offer over an opportunity and encourage everybody, if you haven't upgraded to the VIP pass here, then put yourself in a position to get a free ticket, because it's going to be a powerful one. I can tell you that.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, well, we'll bid you farewell. Thank you so much, and we'll be talking to you again tomorrow.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for listening. Have a beautiful day.
Yeah, create a great day. Thank you.
Good day, my relatives. This is Orest Swazdeski from the Vision and Voices Collective. You can find me at www.visionandvoices.ca, together in collaboration with my partner Sherry Cameron from The Pathway to More, where she can be found at www.thepathwaytomore.com. You've just heard from another amazing speaker. Please allow yourself a moment to check in and take a few deep breaths. Close your eyes and notice what the impact was and what's alive in your system. I wanted to invite you to take a couple of powerful actions over the duration of our time we're here together. A reminder to check out the free gifts from the speakers, and if you're moved by our vision, invite your friends and colleagues to come and join the virtual experience. Lastly, the premium upgrade will give you all access to the recorded speakers for the coming year, their free gift offerings, bonuses, and the chance to be in the draw to win a seat in yours truly, Orest Swazdeski's upcoming Evolutionary Edge online program.